welcome to the Your Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
How's it going, Dan?
Hey, great merch, Mike. Oh, wait, you're not wearing the Your Brother merch, but I am.
Well, I've got my mug. I've got my popcorn vessel.
Shout out to Ranger Rick out there in the audience. Big shout out to
sure
Ranger
he's not
Rick.
watching.
I hope he's not watching. Mike, okay. So it's interesting because this is a, if you're watching, our episodes in chronological order or listening, if you listen to the podcast, there's a tie-in here from our previous episode.
Yeah, more than one.
Oh,
okay. It's weird because last week we did Dark City, which was a favorite of mine. This week we're doing At Close Range, the Vinegar Syndrome edition, which is
Vinegar
awesome.
Syndrome? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Well, cinematography is...
Well, I think, how like Criterion has Janus?
I don't look beyond the main title. I don't think anybody
Janus
else does.
Films is the big headline, and then Criterion falls under that. And I think it's the same with this.
Mm-hmm. But there's the two tie-ins, right? Or more than one, you said.
Yeah, there's definitely two. And, you want to set up the film first?
Well, so At Close Range. Now, you mentioned last episode, Dark City, which was one we were trying to get on the books, in the can, because you'd been such a fan of that film for a long time, as had I, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. So that was quite a joy. And this film, to me, At Close Range, it's one of those films that I feel like the rest of America, the rest of the world is sleeping on, and just hasn't discovered it yet. Now, obviously, there's plenty of fans of the film out there, but I don't think it has the mass appeal it should.
No, in fact, James Foley, who's no longer with us, less than a year ago he died.
He died May 2025. That's right. Brain cancer. Sad.
Which is sad because I could tell from his interview and his...
Which was and you're referring to, we should say that, like the Criterion, this thing is chock full of extra content. And some of that includes interviews with the director, James Foley. And I think the most recent one on there is from 2018. So it had been many years later, obviously between then. So
yet we get Christopher Walken and Sean Penn and what feels like isn't a year old.
Well, I think it is. I think it's late last year that those interviews were taking place. But it's based on a true story, to some degree, right?
Right. It's fact and fiction.
It's fact and fiction. Yeah, there's some license being taken here, but it basically follows Sean Penn's character, who is a junior, Brad Whitewood Jr., to Christopher Walken's Brad Sr. character. Mm-hmm. And, they're reunited. Sort of his father comes back into town.
I got the feeling he never knew his father until that day he walked in.
Well, sure. I mean, I think Christopher Walken, but I don't think Brad Jr.
Right. He knew of him,
correct.
But probably that was the first time he ever saw him. Is a very early scene in the film. He walks into a room with Sean Penn and says, "I want to give your mother some money."
Yeah, well, as most sons, would have an admiration for their father and looking up to their father. And this was no different. Sean Penn's character, even though he's, like you say, he knows of him but doesn't know him.
Right.
As soon as he puts together that's who it is, he's immediately wanting to sort of, get to know him. And Christopher Walken's character is this, again, based on the Johnston Gang.
Right. Bruce Johnston Sr. and his two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
In the film, he has one brother and an uncle, but so that's where the lines get blurred between.
He's a career criminal.
Correct.
He's
a thief.
And they one of the big things they do is they boost John Deere tractors, as was part of the real Johnston Gang.
There's even an extra that takes you to a location where they stole these John Deere tractors.
Right. Which, John Deere obviously gave their blessing to allow that to be portrayed in the film. But, very quickly, Sean Penn's character kind of admires that. It's kind of intoxicating.
Yeah,
right?
He wants to be part of the gang.
Yeah, he's living this fast life, making, seemingly easy money, even though it's quite dangerous what they're doing.
Right.
And you hear about in the extra content there's that one interview with a guy that really spent several years researching that family, and Bruce Mobay, or I forget what his name was. But I don't think
the court reporter? There's a court reporter that wrote a book about the Johnstons.
No, this isn't the guy. This is right.
Okay.
This isn't him, but he just talks about that the actual Johnston gang, they were much more ruthless and dangerous than what you see here, which, Christopher Walken and his gang, they're very intimidating.
Yes.
Very ruthless in that line of work, but that's kind of the real sort of simple plot, right? He is looking up to his dad. He wants to be like him, and ultimately, gets taken in by his father as almost like an apprenticeship.
Right.
I'm gonna show you how to steal tractors and this, that, and the other thing.
And he basically tells him, come along, check it out. If you like it, you're in. If not, you walk away. But if you're in,
that's it. It's
blood.
It's like the mafia. It's really like the mafia. And Sean Penn's real life brother, the late great Chris Penn, is in the film. It's just so fantastic in this film. One of his best performances, even though it was early in his career.
Yes.
He was great in this film.
He had a career ahead of him, which every time I see him, whether it's True Romance or which is the Clint Eastwood one, was it Pale Rider? He was in a Clint Eastwood film. And it's either Pale Rider or Josie Wales. It's not like it was a tiny part. It was a bigger part than this film.
Yeah, I know that. Oh, it was Pale Rider.
Rider.
I knew it wasn't Josie Wales because that was too old.
Okay.
But yeah, he played Josh LaHood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He was like the bad guy.
And that was actually the year before this came out. So he already had some street cred, as did Sean Penn. I mean, Sean Penn was Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He was
more
in Bad Boys.
Bad Boys.
Well, not more important because I think that's more obscure to most people. That's kind of a deep cut. We loved it. I remember I think you had that on 8mm back
Probably
in the day,
did.
if I'm
I
not
still have it
mistaken.
on Blu-ray.
Yeah. But Chris Penn, his character, I don't know, almost wanting to be in this gang more. I think he wanted to be part of it more. And as Sean Penn gets deeper into the life, right, if you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that he witnesses, this is not exactly what he signed up for.
Right.
As it turns out, right? We're talking like murder, right? Like really ruthless things that these guys are doing.
And the real guy went to jail he was convicted of 8 murders, and there's 2 more they're certain he committed.
Yeah.
But yeah, as he gets into it and witnesses one of these murders, and it was a great ad-lib by Christopher Walken, because, Sean Penn's watching from a distance, and Christopher Walken just gives him this.
Yeah, for those listening, they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, thanks.
So it's the finger to the mouth, like the whisper, don't
Keep
say
quiet.
anything. Yeah, and that's I don't want to give too much away in this, but
right,
because this is one that I really strongly encourage people to see. I mean, you're talking about 2 Oscar winners at the helm here, right? You got Christopher Walken who won for The Deer Hunter. Right, Best Supporting Actor. Sean Penn just took Best Supporting Actor from One Battle After Another,
Right.
And he's got 2 other Best Actor awards to his name. So let me just run down the rest of the main cast here. Mary Stuart Masterson is
very young at the time.
Very young. She's about 19, playing, I think, like a 16-year-old. Loved her in that era, too. Right. This came out April 18th, 1986, which we didn't mention. This is the 40th anniversary of this film, which makes me,
And the reason
27.
we hadn't done it yet is because there wasn't a great copy of it. This 4K is brand new.
And this 4K is spectacular looking.
Yeah. It's like,
wow.
I'm dying to ask you, did you learn as much as me from the extras?
In terms
I know you
of,
know the film better than I do.
Yeah. Do you mean about the making of it or the story or?
Almost every element, from the fact that this was Sean Penn's passion project. He was the driving force for 5 years.
Sure.
It took to get this made. To who was going to play Brad Sr., to the director that...
Yeah, no, I didn't know all of that. But here's the craziest thing, I think, now looking back. And I don't think you knew this either going into it. But the fact that James Foley was also behind the camera for one of the best films of all time.
Can't believe we haven't done it yet.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah.
And you really, and you have to say now, having seen At Close Range again, he was already displaying the visual brilliance. And we should give credit to Juan Ruiz, is it Ancio, I think, who was a cinematographer on this, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Glengarry, yeah.
Because it is a master class in cinematography.
The lighting, the colors, it's just perfect.
And it's referred to, some people I've seen refer to it as like a stylish noir.
Well, and going back to the beginning when I said there's 2 things, and
Yes.
I didn't bring this up under Dark City, but some people criticized that film saying, oh, it's style over substance, which Alex Proyas hated because there's so much substance. This exact same. The style is fantastic. And the story,
Is great.
we find out, is even deeper and more enthralling than the real story. It's just incredible.
Now, you didn't really finish that thought from the beginning.
No,
but
that was the one point, was the style.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland, who was in
And
Dark
Kiefer
City,
Sutherland.
is in this as well. Wasn't as well known. And it's a fairly small part, but he himself also didn't really care. He's like, I just want to be involved in it. I just want to be in the project. But was there other threads I'm not connecting to Dark City?
No, those were the 2 major ones, Kiefer and the style and substance. They both had reek of both.
But I can't believe I didn't make the connection until now with Glengarry Glen Ross. It's really funny.
I always knew, James Foley as the director of Glengarry. I didn't realize until watching this that he had done this too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I should have known this first.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I've liked this since it came out, and I didn't make that connection. But, a lot of years in between. And
you talk about this did not do well because of the way they rolled it out.
Yeah, no.
And it became a hit on VHS. And I remember the first time I saw this, I saw Glengarry in the theater. First time I saw this was a Far More special.
Far More drugstore. That's fun.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
used to be
throwback.
in Orlando, and they were 50-cent rentals.
Well, and here's another thing. I was very familiar with Foley's first film, but didn't know it was didn't pay much attention back then with those obvious details of filmmaking, like who's the director of the film. But his first film, Reckless, I loved that film. Now, for me, part of this is, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, how films resonate maybe more strongly with one person or another because of a time and place in their life and whatever. And this was the case here, was, I was a very young teenager when Reckless came out, and that starred Aidan Quinn and Daryl Hannah. And there was some similarities in terms of characters that are like in these dead-end towns, young love, looking to just break out, like the song Born to Run, right? They're just looking to get out of town and break away from all the losers in your hometown and stuff. And so it really resonated with me. I was very impressionable at that age. My God, I mean, Sean Penn, from that, not the very opening sequence of the film, but this is a shot where real, long lens shot.
Overhead shot?
No.
Okay.
There's too many to talk about. But there's one of just a long distance shot of Sean Penn walking down a roadway hitchhiking, right? He just appears over the hill, which is kind of weird. You think about one battle after another. And
correct.
That's a weird connection. But that actually is very weird now that I think about it. But he was so ripped.
Yeah.
And Foley had him gain so much weight to get beefed up, right? That, I aspired. He was such a badass. I just, it was like such a cool character.
Like his body transition from Bad Boys to this.
Oh, wow.
Is dramatic.
Right.
And it turns out he was sleeping on James Foley's sofa at the time, and he had weights in his shed, and that's where he bulked himself up.
And he was going to be... There was a possibility he was going to end up in the film Reckless, and that didn't pan out. But they became and stayed friends after that.
He was looking for a De Niro Scorsese kind of relationship.
I found that very interesting. Yeah.
So he wanted James Foley to direct him multiple times. Turns out this was a one-off.
Which is, I wonder why that is. They just end up
why it didn't happen.
Going different ways. That would have been quite an interesting relationship to see after this one. But so it really had an impact on me culturally, socially, generationally at that time, because, I was closer in age to these characters, at that point. And
there's two groups. There's, Brad Sr.'s group, and then there's the kiddie group that they start stealing. Now, in the real life story, they're combined, but they still referred to the younger ones as the kiddies.
Yeah, because Brad Jr., we'll just call, Sean's character Brad Jr., eventually wants to make his own thing, right? Because he meets very early, the opening sequence, he lays eyes on Mary Stuart Masterson, who is exactly, imagine being 14 and seeing her as he does in that opening sequence, which is just masterful. Of course you're going to immediately fall in love. Yeah. And so, eventually they become a couple, and he wants to make his own way. And he ends up kind of causing a little bit of trouble for Brad Sr.
And so does she.
Yes.
They kind of laugh at him when he says something, I want to, and she stands up and says, he's better than all of you. Mm-hmm. She's a kid.
Right. And she doesn't know who she's dealing with.
Right.
I mean, neither of them really do.
Right.
But you're right. There's this other gang that he starts kind of, running with of his own. Which is Kiefer and
Crispin
Glover, who, say what you will, but he's great in the film. He's perfect for that character. He's very eccentric, almost like an androgynous kind of character. It's very interesting.
Having him and Christopher Walken in the same film is pretty funny.
It is. And Back to the Future had just come out the summer before this.
Yeah, it hadn't been released. This came out actually ahead of it.
No, it didn't. Back to the Future came out in July of 1985. I know they say that, but that's not correct. That's not correct.
And there's a couple of contradictions.
Yeah, it's not right
in the interviews.
Right. So I wondered if they meant the reverse. That this hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So we already knew him as George McFly.
George McFly.
It's funny that opening. There's in the opening sequence, I think, Chris Penn and Sean Penn and some of Chris's friends, who I think become part of the gang that Sean's character forms.
Yeah.
They are trying to get this guy to buy them liquor in the town square. And he rips them off. I think the guy rips them off.
He takes their money, buys liquor, and
then
takes off
until Sean confronts him. And that actor's name, like Paul Herman, I'm like, I know this guy. Where do I know this guy from? This is one of the great things about going back and watching a film that's 40 years old. He played Beansy in The Sopranos.
Oh, wow.
Which was a pretty well-known character in the it's kind of the mid to later seasons of that series.
Well, Brad's whole group were all became famous.
Artie Call, David Strathairn.
David Strathairn.
He's
huge
awesome.
Star.
He's a huge star now. And as many of them went on to be.
His brother was in Batman with Jack Nicholson. He was Jack Nicholson's, you're my number one guy, Bob.
Oh, you mean brother in the film?
Yeah, brother in the film.
Tracy Walter.
Yeah, Tracy Walter,
great,
which
great character actor.
I don't know his name, but I know his work. He's in a ton of films.
And I think they like it that way. I think those types of actors like that, right? They've got some anonymity and
right.
Talk about and you know what was an interesting note with Strathairn, who he actually has two parts in the film, which
he's an informant and part of the gang.
Yeah, I guess you call him an informant, sure. Yeah, to Brad Sr., right?
Yes.
And they sort of that actor that was supposed to play that small part at this cockfight, because Brad Sr.'s trying to say, hey, what is it true the FBI is on our heels, and what do you know, and all of this. And Strathairn's got this like funny mustache, and he's in the shadows, like Foley shoots him in the shadows because the actor that was supposed to play didn't show up.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, if you can kind of disguise me, I can do it.
Right.
I never knew that. That was a fascinating little tidbit too.
Yeah.
Talk about Millie Perkins, Mike, how she got cast.
Well, basically
she plays the mom.
Yeah, she plays the mom, and the grandmother is Sean Penn's real-life mom, who's been in 7 of his films, which I did not know.
And again, she was great. And they had great chemistry, the mom and the grandmom.
Yeah,
her and
but Millie Perkins was somebody that Nicholson worked with and loved her work, and that's how she got this gig.
Yeah, he lobbied for her.
He was up for this film. He was going to be Brad Sr.
Yeah.
And even after he dropped out, he stayed in touch and said, Millie Perkins, that's your pick.
Yeah, he ended up, what did he end up getting attached to that he couldn't do it? Do you remember what they said? I can't remember, around that time, 1984,
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Probably something with Scorsese. No, that was De Niro.
Right.
And that's funny because there's an interview with Sean Penn, and he's throwing out names like, Bob and, Jack. And I'm like, is he talking about Bob De Niro?
Yeah.
Like we would call him Bob.
And I don't know if they could afford Jack Nicholson as maybe what, but I think it was because, again, I think there was another project.
I think it was a scheduling thing because this took a long time to gestate.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, like I did not realize that this was kind of a passion project, the Sean Penn's. I had no idea.
Without him, it doesn't get made.
Yeah, now this is they shot it outside of Nashville in a town called Franklin, but all these events, the Johnston Gang, actually that all took place in Pennsylvania, right? Exactly.
Which, when you think about that shot, you talked about Sean Penn walking.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an Amish, wagon that goes by him.
That's right.
I think that was to give it a Pennsylvania feel.
I think so, to try. Yeah, exactly. But it was nice because they weren't beholden to, Foley talks about this in the commentary. Yeah, they weren't really beholden to the facts of because most people never heard of that story
outside of
Pennsylvania, right? So it gave them a bit of freedom and liberty to play around with it.
Today, if something like that happens, it's viral in minutes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They also talk about, well, I guess you mentioned this kind of Foley had this ability to make films that were both heavily character driven but equally blended with a strong visual style. You know, it's undeniable. Now, when you were watching this,
yeah,
because when's the last time you've seen this film?
It's got to be a decade.
Yeah.
At least.
So what was going through your head as related to Glengarry Glen Ross, knowing that?
Well, you know, the lighting and the style. Now, Glengarry's totally different color palette. It's more blue. This is more red.
But there are certain sequences where there is bluish hues, you know, the moonlit sequences. Yes. And then there's, you know, the very opening scene. It's so captivating. It's Sean Penn, you know, with his bleach blonde hair driving a pickup truck, and his face is kind of going in and out of the shadows, right? His half his face is lit, the other half's in the shadows. And if you look through the back glass, the back window of the pickup truck, you're seeing, you know, like the very bright, rich colors of stoplights and things. I can't say enough about the cinematography of the film. It's just so
it's visually
striking.
If you know Glengarry Glen Ross,
mm-hmm.
you have to see this film,
yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah, and there's, you know, Christopher Walken was kind of at a low point in his career. There wasn't a lot going on at this time before he got cast.
This is post Deer Hunter.
Post Deer Hunter. Not a lot of other known things up to this point.
Right.
When he gets cast, and he also wasn't this guy. He's not this character by any stretch of the imagination. But you couldn't think of a more menacing portrayal.
No.
And Mike, it's like I think about Dad. He reminds me of Dad a lot in his youth, because Dad, you know, we've talked about him a lot on the podcast before, and I'm sure he saw this film. But very big guy, very intimidating, and he had these glassy eyes. Like, he'd give you this look, and as a kid, you just knew, okay, here's the line.
Right.
Don't cross that line. Now, you cross that line. Sometimes you didn't cross that line, and a sibling crossed the line, and you still got smacked for it. But
correct.
But
your line was different from my line.
Yeah, my
Dad
line
had mellowed.
Very much. He was so tired at that point that he was over it. But what the subtlety of the performance, not just from Walken, honestly, from all of the actors, primarily Walken, Sean, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Chris Penn. Chris, talk about, I don't know. All right, spoiler alert, because I kind of want you to talk about the sequence between Christopher Walken and Sean Penn, Chris Penn. It's a climactic scene in the film.
End.
Towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the film, click off, come back, turn off, come back. But talk about that. It's too good not to talk about.
Well, basically, Brad Sr.'s nervous that the FBI might be closing in, and they're going to go after the Kitty gang. And they're going to, let's face it, they portray these as being real dimwits.
Particularly Chris Penn's character.
Yeah.
He's a very sweet and innocent kid, though.
Right.
But very vulnerable and impressionable.
Right. And, you know, he already had somebody narc on him. That's the scene we talked about where he gives the, you know, be quiet.
Yeah, Lester.
Gesture. But here, each one of the brothers is basically taking out the Kitty gang one by one. And it comes time to Tommy, who's played by Chris Penn. And I think in real life he was a stepson, but I think they play him off as a son, right?
Yes.
In the film. So there he is.
Well, he calls him. He doesn't he make a comment or something about him being a bastard or something at one point?
I don't know.
There's a scene in the car between the three of them, but anyways, it's irrelevant.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, good.
I know when he saw Crispin Glover, he looked at Sean Penn and said, "Tommy."
Oh, right.
Like he didn't even know what he looked like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So cut to the end, and who's going to take him out but Brad Sr.?
Mm-hmm.
And It reminds me of Sofia Coppola at the end of The Godfather Part 3.
Yes.
Her death scene.
Yes.
And how innocent it was. And kind of the same thing here. The last word out of his mouth is, Dad.
Yeah, it's right. And that's what I was going to say. That's a good comparison in the sense that Sofia Coppola, who, has been railed on for so many years, and we had our moment with that early on.
She's doing just fine.
She's doing
top
just
director.
Fine. That's right, and we've done a 180 on that for sure. There's an episode on it, folks. Why you should love The Godfather Part 3. But it's the ability, both of them at a young age, young stage in their career, but the ability for an actor to deliver one line, in this case, one word, that you couldn't imagine anybody else delivering it quite as powerfully.
Right.
It's just, wow, Chris Penn. I mean, it's one of those, like, it's an Oscar-worthy scene.
Yeah.
That performance. And I think he's certainly a character that garners a lot of sympathy. So it's even more impactful and shocking when it happens.
And the funny thing leading up to that, right? There's a 3-hour window before that scene gets shot.
That's right.
And Sean Penn tells the story, and I don't want to go too far into the extras, but Sean Penn says, they've been filming for 3 hours. He got there like 3 hours after filming started, which was at night.
And they still hadn't done this scene.
He's like, how's it going? They haven't shot anything yet. And he finds out that Foley went into Christopher Walken's trailer, and they're in there for 3 hours, and nobody knows what's going on. They're in there smoking a joint,
right,
getting high.
Yeah,
because Christopher Walken didn't understand the scene for some reason. Nothing was said. They come out, they shoot it, and it's gold.
Yeah, it's this speech that he gives. He's telling Tommy about this wolf, and it works, it fits, but you can kind of see how at that point he was like, I'm not really sure how this ties in, but okay, and I think he's talking about this sort of, how this wolf kind of lures in this dog, right? Only to have it killed and attacked by other wolves. This kind of deceit and betrayal. And so I see the connection. I don't know, maybe he was too high before they even started doing it and he couldn't make the connection. But you're right, it ends up being gold. Being gold. It's one of the most powerful sequences of the film.
And
there's many moments like that, Mike, where it's just a look that Walken gives, or a reaction that Sean Penn has, or the way that Mary Stuart Masterson performs being intoxicated in one sequence.
Right.
It was those little moments that add up to making the film so powerful.
And then you get a final face-off between Sean Penn and Christopher Walken. That's about as good as anything I've seen on film.
Thank you. I mean, that is something that I've been, touting for years and years. Like, just watch that sequence and try not to love the film. You're just talking two, and again, this is still relatively early in both their careers. Yes. But two guys that are just masters of the craft in that moment. I mean, talk a little bit about the sequence, what you're referencing.
Well, basically Brad Sr. tries to kill the Kitty Gang, including Sean Penn and Mary Stuart Masterson.
Terry, yeah.
But he fails. And he wasn't involved. It was the two other brothers.
Right. And again, this is part of the true story as well.
This is very much part of the true story, where one of them on each side, and the dome light goes on and they just start firing.
Right.
And you think, how does anybody survive that?
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, both of them in real life survived, at least temporarily, to get to like a nearby barn.
Mm-hmm.
And she winds up dying in his arms. So after that sequence, Sean Penn survives and confronts Christopher Walken. And like I said, it's some of the best cinema you'll ever see, ever.
It's you have to see the film to understand. But Mike, there's in that sequence when, again, it's such a minor detail, but I know you'll remember this. When that scene is just about to conclude, Sean Penn is starting to, it seems, succumb to his injuries.
Pass out, yeah.
Yeah, and he's looking at a phone on the wall. Back in the day, kids, phones on the wall.
Yeah.
No cell phones at this point.
Right.
And, you're wondering, is this going to be a moment where Brad Sr. overtakes Brad Jr., right? But it's when he sees Sean looking at the phone, and he gives him this look like, yeah, go ahead. Dude.
Right.
I can't even articulate it because it's so masterful.
James Foley's got the siren that you can just kind of hear in the distance. The police are on their way.
Right.
So at that point, I think Sean Penn's like, I'm good.
Now, you talk about that scene, right? You think it doesn't get any better than that. And then you fast forward to the very last shot in the film is some of the greatest acting you'll ever witness by any actor.
When you go, I've taken many acting classes and, and they tell you to get in, figure out something that you can relate to that's going through. And I don't know what Sean Penn called upon to get that emotion.
Wow.
But it's sheer brilliance.
If you don't feel it watching that, you're a heartless character. But yeah, it's just top to bottom. Mike, this is one of those ones for me is a perfect film. It's a perfect film.
And if Metascore, I don't even know. It was,
here's the criminal aspect of this, Mike, because thank you, because we always talk about the ratings. IMDb score, Mike, 67. It's criminal.
And who was the highest Metacritic? Did you notice?
Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
Now, Rotten Tomatoes is a bit more respectable. The critics, 88%, but the audience, 78%, which is why I wanted us to do an episode on this to try to persuade more people to see the film, because I think people would be turned on by it, no doubt.
And I found it by accident. I had seen Dead Zone.
Yeah, great film.
And our former roommate and I were like, this is great. And we started renting all of these Stephen King films.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden and we look and we see At Close Range with the picture of Walken, and we're like, that's the guy from Dead Zone. And we realized what we loved about the Dead Zone was Christopher Walken.
Right.
It wasn't Stephen King.
Right. And he was
a lot of those films were like boring.
That was like 84 or something, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
85.
Like most of these collections, there's a beautiful booklet in here too. Like here's a great shot of Chris Penn. Look at this.
Yeah.
Great hair they all had in this film too.
80s hair for sure.
80s hair. Yeah. I want to show Sean Penn. Great shot of Sean Penn from the film. And then let me just show, there's a great shot here in the beginning of the two of them. Mary Stuart Masterson and Sean Penn.
Which he's the one who found her. I forget how. Mm-hmm. He saw her in something and said right from the start, she's going to play the love interest.
Now, I have to admit, I have not even gotten through all the extras. I haven't read this whole booklet yet. So I still have a ton to dive into.
Yeah, I've seen all of the interviews, and they're all really good and just right. It's not like they're too long.
Right.
One of the most fascinating ones, Dan, is the composer.
That's the one I haven't gotten to yet.
And honestly,
Mike, we slept on that.
on Madonna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So the composer is a guy that has been working with Madonna and Michael Jackson, both at the peak of their fame. He was working on Bad when he got the call from Sean Penn saying, hey, can you come to James Foley's house right now?
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting there with Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones like, no, I can't get there right now.
Well, the funny thing is Sean Penn, you mentioned it earlier, at the time he meets Madonna, that's when he's sleeping on James Foley's couch, basically.
Correct.
And he gets an invitation to go down, I think, to the studio or see her, watch her record or something. And that's where Sean Penn and Madonna meet, which, of course, they would go on to be one of the most storied Hollywood couples of all time.
Right. And
there was hardly anyone, maybe other than Michael Jackson, Prince, there wasn't anybody bigger at that time than her. Like, this is post Live Aid. This is like,
yeah,
like a Virgin, like all that was out. I think
Madonna and Bruce were the two stadium people at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
They were both blowing up, even though you can say, well, Bruce blew up in 75 when he was on Newsweek and Time, but it wasn't until 85.
Yeah, 84,
where he could fill a stadium.
Yeah, yeah. She was in this song originally, she co-wrote it.
Right.
And
it was for a different movie.
Yeah, and she thought a man should sing it.
Right.
You can't hear Live to Tell now and imagine anybody else singing that song.
Right. And Patrick Leonard is the composer.
Patrick Leonard, yes, thank you.
And he wrote the song for a movie called Fire to Fire.
Okay, I didn't know the name of the film. Yeah, okay, knew it was intended for another film.
And she sang it like once. That track we hear is from like a cassette tape.
That's right.
That she sang into.
It was like a demo type. And what's even more interesting is the whole score of the film is basically variations on that song. It's like 3 notes, 3 chords, and that's it. And you had been a Madonna fan early on, as I recall. You were a pretty big fan of hers.
Ironically, her first hit
at this
was
time,
Holiday.
A great song, yeah.
And like many others, and Madonna will tell this story, I thought she was black. I never saw her.
Oh.
If you listen to Holiday, and you have to erase Madonna from your mind.
Hard to do.
It sounds like she's like a black soul kind of singer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw her, I was like, whoa.
Right.
That's not who I thought I was singing that.
There's a compilation out that she has. I think it's like the Immaculate, what is it? It's a greatest hits, the Immaculate Collection. Came out in 1990. Every single song on it's a hit. Every single song. And the number 1 track on there, Mike, the first track, Holiday.
Yeah, not surprised.
Yeah.
James Foley, by the way, when Madonna and Sean Penn get married, he's the best man.
Yeah, and he went on to direct her in a subsequent film to this, to At Close Range, Who's That Girl, which ended up tanking.
Yeah.
But
then he pivots to TV. He does House of Cards,
a
show that I loved up until the scandal broke out.
And he was getting involved with Billions too.
And he wrote a couple of episodes and directed a couple episodes of Billions. And I get the feeling from his interview, he had another great movie in him. Yeah,
on the commentary, he talks about, and again, this was 2018, the interview with him on the but I think it's in the commentary track that I listened to, which is actually from 2016. And he's talking about these things. He's like, well, a couple more things of House of Cards, season finale or whatever. And then he starts talking about Billions, which was an upcoming thing. Right. And then he talked about some other film project that he said, if I get attached to it and do it, it'll be very, he said something like controversial or, did you hear that commentary track?
I did, but I don't think I got all the way through it.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what that might have been.
Well, he did his last directing gig was what's the Dirty Shades or
50 Shades.
50
maybe
Shades.
That's what he was talking about.
I think he was talking about that.
Oh, I think you're right.
Because he did 2 of the sequels, and they all bombed.
No, you know what? You're right. 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed. Yeah, that's what he... Geez, he did an episode of Wayward Pines with Matt Dillon that I really liked that show.
Yep.
Yeah, it's wild, his resume. But this
and I
got to
tell you,
one
last thing you'll love is how Sean Penn found out about the script. It was sent to Bruce Springsteen to see if he wanted to write a song for the movie. And somehow Sean Penn got wind of it, and that started his passion to want to make it.
And here's an interesting further connection there is Sean Penn, Mike, directed, hold on.
Nicholson.
In The Crossing Guard.
The Crossing Guard and The Pledge. There's 2.
Yeah, and The Crossing Guard. Did he direct that one? Okay. And as you said, Jack Nicholson starred in that. And what's the other guy's name? He's great in that. David something?
I didn't think much of the film, so I don't even remember.
Oh, The Crossing Guard? Well, it opened, Bruce Springsteen has a track on there called
See,
Missing.
I didn't even know that.
Missing. So, and then there's another one, The Indian and the something. What was that film that Sean Penn did? I'm looking now to see. Because, you could talk about his directorial efforts.
Well, yeah, like he says in the interview that he was on the director's track. He wanted to be a director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
right.
I think he's such a brilliant actor. And he's one of these guys, again, art from artistry. Some people don't like his political stands, although he's a guy that puts his money where his mouth is.
The Indian Runner, Mike, is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, see, I don't even remember that
and
one.
The Indian Runner came out in 1991 and starred David Morse, as did The Crossing Guard. David Morse was in The Crossing Guard as well.
When I was trying to think of what he directed Nicholson, I'm like, was it called The Pledge or was it The Crossing Guard?
Yeah,
Which was it? And I looked it up and it was both.
Oh, okay, it was both. Okay. The Pledge, I don't think I ever saw that with Benicio del Toro.
It's not worth your time.
No, not good. Well, this one is worth everyone's time, Mike.
And you know what? I found out. I looked on Amazon today.
Mm.
And you can get the 2-disc version without the box. It's just like a case.
Okay.
For like, $25, something like that.
Well, if you're a collector of any sorts, you got to have this
You
set.
want the book.
This thing is beautiful.
It's very high quality.
It's beautiful. I mean, come on, look at this. It's the pictures in here, and again, I still have to read through the booklet, but yeah, it's chock full of extras, which we love here at the Oh Brother Podcast. But this film, please, if you haven't seen At Close Range, watch the film. Come back and drop some comments, send us a text, send us an email, something, and let us know your thoughts on the film. If you have seen it, let us know your thoughts. Did you love the film? Did you not like the film? If you didn't like the film, I'm definitely interested to hear why.
Yeah.
But this is one of my all-time favorite movies of all time.
Like I hadn't watched it in a long time and just was sitting there in awe.
Yeah.
Like I always say, the directing you shouldn't really notice. You can't not notice. It's so brilliant.
In a good way. And this was back when a director could and would hang on a shot for a minute.
Right.
But it's also a master class in directing. So if you want, some of the shots that he has, one of them is called out in one of the commentary tracks, between Foley and I think a film historian, I can't remember the guy, but he there's an overhead shot in the
yes,
right, with it's Sean
the
Penn,
shadows.
Yeah, Sean Penn and his brother and somebody else, and then Sean Penn walks away from them.
And then he holds on it.
He holds on it, and it's like you said, the shadow and the light, and the angle of the camera, it's just so striking. It's
yeah,
because you got to see it.
It's shot from above.
Yeah.
And they're probably on a crane because there wasn't like, little gadgets you
Drones.
could fly.
Yeah.
So it's very noirish.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see the two shadows coming towards the one shadow.
Yeah.
It's just, wow.
It's like The Killers, the opening of The Killers.
Yeah.
Right?
Stanley Kubrick.
All right, Mike. So this is a high recommend from you then?
Very high.
All right. So this is a big, big recommendation from the Open Podcast.
And if you have Prime, it's free right now.
There you go. You don't even have to spend a dime to watch it if you have Prime. So, well, there you go, Mike. At Close Range, 40th anniversary of the film. This is a great cinematography special edition here, celebrating the 40th anniversary. The 4K image here is just spectacular, and as is the performances, the directing, the cinematography, the score, on and on and on. So,
and we've only scratched the surface of what's in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. So do yourselves a favor, check out us At Close Range. Mike, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I do want to continue to thank folks that are subscribing to the YouTube channel, listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, engaging with us on the channel in particular, too. We get a lot of engagement out on the YouTube channel. Continue to appreciate that. Some of it favorable, some of it critical. We don't care. We always say we welcome all of that feedback. Just keep it appropriate. But yeah, just a big shout out to all the support we continue to get. We're nearing another milestone here at the podcast. So really deeply appreciate that continued support from everybody out there. So Mike, going to do it for another episode of the Your Brother Podcast. I've been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.